Welcome back. As you know, I'm Eli the Computer Guy here for the Daily Blob, and I will just remind you, if you are in a nation-state battle for civilization, the last thing you want to do is tell the other person what you think the most valuable things in your society are, because they might just start giving those things away for free just to screw with you. Oh, Lordy. Eli, why do you talk about politics on a tech channel? Oh, because the modern world is more about politics than anything else, right? If you want to get in the tech industry in 2025, I would argue, as I've argued for a while, either get your MBA or get your Juris Doctor. What programming language do those teach you? None. And that's a bit of the point. But anyways, so we have this coming out of China, which is, I don't know, it's fun. It's only funny because it shows the stupidity of American policy towards China, right? We are not building better infrastructure. We are not reforming education in our schools. We're not reforming education in our colleges and universities. We are not re-empowering the blue collar renaissance for the modern millennia or whatever else. We're just saying China man bad. China man needs to stop. We will have the preeminent military and economy forever, just as soon as China man stop improving their civilization. And I don't know, maybe it's me. I just don't think is a good tactic or strategy. I think it's a strategy. I don't think that's a good strategy. As an American citizen, I am using my freedom of speech to say I don't think the shit is working. Whether you're Trump or whether you're Biden or whether you're Obama, I don't think these policies are working how you think these policies will work. But anyways, right, so we have this whole anti-China AI policy. Biden administration put in something called the AI diffusion rule to try to keep China from getting high-level GPUs and those types of things. And so Huawei is building their own GPUs now. There's this whole thing about trying to keep them from doing models. Again, under the Biden administration, right, our country's first dead president, they literally were talking about doing export controls on models, not GPUs, right? Doing export controls on hardware is stupid, but at least you get the concept. At least you're like, I don't think it's gonna work, but I get where you're coming from. No, they're going to do export controls on models, right? The data files. Like, oh, you can't export that to China. What? I think Napster, about 25 years ago, proved once you turn things into a file, you kind of lose control of them. But anyways, right? So we had that. Now we have the Trump administration and they're doing whatever the hell. I don't. The one nice thing about Biden is being a dead president, at least he was slow enough with what he did, you could keep up with it. You may not agree with his policies, but at least you keep up with the policies. This guy, he's so cracked out on Diet Coke. He's just going a mile a minute. Did you hear now? We're back into a trade. We're not even into a trade war with Canada. We're into all trade negotiation is completely canceled. Like, done. What? The fuck? What happened? Who knows? Anyways, so Trump is doing a lot of stuff. We'll just put it into a bucket. He's doing a lot of stuff to try to keep China from getting our AI. Our AI is in their pocket. They need to give it back. Anyways, China's doing what China's doing because they don't give a damn anymore. Which, yeah, no crap. I get that. And so I think at this point, they're just screwing with us, right? So there's the DeepSeek model. So a number of months ago, there was a model, an AI model, LLM that got debuted from China, basically got dumped onto the open market that anybody could use, and they found the quality of it was pretty good. Right now with Anthropic and OpenAI and those companies, they say, well, DeepSeek, might be a good free thing, but China man did it, so be scared. And anyways, our products are better, right? So one of the arguments is China puts out cheap garbage. right? They create cheap garbage technology products. They create cheap garbage cars, and they create cheap garbage AI. Not saying it's true, but that's the story, right? Oh, look at them. Oh, they're just copying what we did and selling it for a lower price. You know, the Chinaman, right? Hey, if you're not running a real organization, if you're not running a real company and you can deal with half-ass knockoff crap, fucking buy China. But if you want to deal with a real product, you might as well go with OpenAI, Anthropic, whatever else. Anyway, like I said, China just keeps rolling along because they built shit. They may not have a great government system. You know, they might not do well on human rights and that kind of stuff. But you know what China does? I'll just put it on the table. They build. Those motherfuckers build. And so that's where we have the new open source model coming from Baidu, one of China's big tech companies. China's biggest public AI drop since DeepSeek, Baidu's open source Ernie is about to hit the market. And so this is a new model that's going to be open source, basically free for anybody to use. And apparently it is going to smack OpenAI and Anthropic and the rest of it. Says, because yeah, Chinaman likes fucking with old whitey. I get it. I understand. On Monday, Chinese technology giant Baidu is making its Ernie generative AI, a large language model, open source, a move by China's tech sector that could be its biggest in the AI race since the emergence of DeepSeek. The open sourcing of Ernie will be a gradual rollout, according to the company. One big change is that Baidu wasn't always on the open source bandwagon. And this is interesting. And this is where I think there are lovers of power. Again, when you start fucking with nation state actors, again, as technology people, you have to understand how these politics work, right? Trump does his stuff, right? If you jack up the tariff rate on products coming in from China to 145%, and you're in an IoT centric business, right? IoT, so things like Raspberry Pis and that kind of thing. All of a sudden, the cost for your product might go through the roof, right? If you were deploying 1 million IoT devices, and now the bill to deploy those million IoT devices went up by $1 billion, right? That's something you have to worry about. Why does politics matter? Because tariffs matter, right? The other thing to be looking at too is also how other countries basically do things like their trade policy, right? So Trump, right? Trump has come out, and everybody in the United States has come out and said how significant AI is. We must maintain leadership in the world of AI. At the exact same time, we will not stop fucking with China. And so China goes, hey. They put some pressure on their companies to start open sourcing things that they may not have wanted to open source in the past. Hey, Baidu, do you want enough land to build a new factory? Hey, do you want a loan from the state bank so that you can do your marketing campaign or whatever else? Great. You're now going to open source this thing. Right? And this is something that you need to be thinking about, right, in the tech world. Quote, Baidu has always been very supportive of its proprietary business model and was vocal against open source, but disruptors like DeepSeek have proven that open source models can be as competitive and reliable as proprietary ones, a chief analyst with technology research and advisory group told CNBC. Is it that they believe in open source, or is it they believe in getting loans from the state banks? I'm not being mean there. This is just a practical thing, right? Xi says, fuck with old whitey. Chinaman, I'm fuck with old whitey. Now that Baidu has made the decision to open source, even if it isn't a DeepSeek moment, it's an important one for the global AI race. Quote, this isn't just a China story. Every time a major lab open sources a powerful model, it raises the bar for the entire industry, said Sean Rain, associate professor, blah, blah, blah. Rain says Baidu's moves put pressure on closed providers like OpenAI and Anthropic to justify gated APIs and premium pricing. I would actually argue it doesn't force them to justify gated APIs, right? There's a reason you use services. Infrastructure as a service, software as a service. This would be infrastructure as a service, right? You want somebody else to be, running the system, right? They run the servers, they run the network infrastructure, they deal with all that. You connect using your API key, you get everything that you need, and you don't worry about CPU failing, right? Gated APIs, I think, are fine, right? This is the kind of stuff non-technology people are like, oh my God, gated API. And a real technology professional, it's like, yeah, do you really want to build a rack of servers? Like seriously, right? If you want to spin up your own LLM solution for your corporation, you got 1,000 people or whatever in your corporation. Think about the resource load per LLM request. And so you have to create servers that will be able to reliably, with little latency, be able to provide the responses to those requests. And then that has to scale to the number of requests coming in. So you, as a CIO of your company, do you really want to worry about how many racks of LLM servers you're going to have to deploy, and then how to properly route the requests so that so you don't have like 100 servers, but all the requests get dumped in the first server, and it actually gets load balanced and the rest of it, right? I would actually argue, right, the gated API, who the hell cares? The gated API is like, whatever, right? The bigger thing to be thinking about is that premium pricing. Are you going to pay for OpenAI when you don't need it? All right, that's one of the things I've talked about with this whole China thing and this whole trying to beat down the Chinaman. And now I don't think it's going to work how non-tech professionals think it'll work, because NVIDIA came out and even Huawei came out. So Huawei has their new AI chips that have come out, and depending on who you listen to, those chips are either comparative to what NVIDIA currently has, but they burn more electricity, right? Or they're 1.5 years, 2 years behind. Now, if you're not in the technology world, you might be like, yeah, they're 2 years behind. Yeah, but think about it. I mean, think about this practically, right? So we're in 2025. So if their processors truly are 2 years behind, and let's just take it as it is, that means their processors are running in 2023 standards. If you could buy GPUs or AI processors or whatever the hell they're putting out for a fraction of the price that NVIDIA is selling, and you're up to 2023 standards, is that really gonna be a problem for you, right? Think about that with computers nowadays. Computers, right? So this is a 1.5 year, maybe 2-year-old M2 MacBook Pro Max or whatever. Cost me a lot of money. Like, did I really need to buy it? No, I've got this 2019 thing sitting here. I bought this because I wanted to buy it. I didn't really buy it for performance, right? I've got these 2012 computers that are sitting here. All right, for Silicon Dojo, I literally have 15 of these things. Can I tell you a secret? I'll tell you a secret. These are 2012 MacBook Pros. I did put solid state drives in them. These are fine for most purposes. Most business users can use a 13-year-old computer and not notice a damn difference. That's the truth, right? It's been a long time since, the 3-year refresh cycle was a big thing. And so one of the curious things is when we start looking at this, whether it's AI hardware or whether it's the AI models, if you say, I can save a significant amount of money using Chinese AI solutions, but it's 2 years behind, and let's just say it's 2 years behind. If I'm a CIO, CTO, that's fine. That's probably fucking fine, to be honest with you. Why do I need cutting edge? And, I've been dealing with OpenAI's API for a while. So if you deal with their API service, so there's ChatGPT. That's where you go when you type your query in and it spits something out. The API is where you can actually create a program to interact with their infrastructure and get responses. And I have to say, the new stuff is better. Don't get me wrong, the new stuff is better, but for a lot of what people need, they literally don't need the cutting edge. And so it will be curious to see as this goes forward, as China starts dumping more and more of these AI products on the market, when you see the valuations for our tech companies, going through the roof, right? The idea that OpenAI is worth hundreds of billions of dollars, right? NVIDIA is now worth damn near $4 trillion, right? There's so much of this AI, is this AI valuation, but the AI valuation is the concept that they will be able to charge exorbitant rents in the future, right? That's the whole thing with startups, right? You give the product away for free now, free or very low cost now, until you basically monopolize the market, right? You get to the size that you need. And then once you get to the size you need, then you start charging real money, right? So you see this with Uber and Lyft. Uber and Lyft 10 years ago used to be incredibly inexpensive. It was cheaper to use Uber and Lyft than to buy a car. Now, as we see, the prices of Uber and Lyft go up and up and up. Why? Because their competitors have failed. They're finally to the point they've burned through the investor money. They need to start actually making a successful business model. And now all of a sudden you're looking at Uber, and like what used to be a $15 ride is now a $50 ride, right? That's the idea. But here's the thing. What if the investors are throwing money into a bonfire in order to build OpenAI, but then all the products that OpenAI are creating in order to charge people for, you now have the Chinese AI companies just dumping on the market for free. Right? That's business. That's business. It's not exactly easy to tariff that kind of crap either. Quote, while most customers don't care whether a model's code is open source, they do care about lower costs, better performance, and support for their language or region. Those benefits often come from open models, which give developers and researchers more freedom to iterate, customize, and deploy. Other industry experts view an open source ERNIE as potentially being even more disruptive to both US and Chinese competitors when it comes to the price equation. Quote, Baidu just threw a Molotov into the AI world, said Alec Strassmore, founder of the AI advisory Epic Loot. Quote, OpenAI, Anthropic, DeepSeek, all these guys who thought they were selling top-notch champagne are about to realize that Baidu will be giving away something just as powerful, Strathmore said. Again, question there. Comparing Baidu's move to Costco creating Kirkland's AI, Kirkland's LLM. He said the message to all the world startups is, quote, stop paying top dollar. Quote, this isn't a competition, it's a declaration of war on pricing, Strassmore said. Baidu said in March that its recent ERNIE X1 model delivers performance on par with DeepSeek's R1, quote, at only half the price. Baidu's CEO hinted earlier this year that the rollout would help developers worldwide in AI development. Quote, our releases aim to empower developers to build the best applications without having to worry about model capability, cost, or development tools, Li said in a speech to developers in China. And in the least, it's one more moment in time when investors have to analyze how cost dynamics in AI model access are changing quickly and what it means that more applications can be built on top of these dirt cheap models, Strassmore said. Quote, Baidu is going to be seeding the world with Chinese AI models. Yep. And you seed the world with Chinese AI models, and then they become legacy, and then they never go the fuck away. It's like kudzu. China is seeding AI kudzu. Once you have it growing in your server room in your data center, it will never go away, because none of this crap ever goes away once you actually put it into production. So I'll be curious to see how this whole AI race continues to go. I get pushback from people that somehow I'm anti-American for some reason. Like, saying, apparently in the modern world, in MAGA world, saying these things are dumbass policies that are going to fail is anti-American now. My thing is, I just think these are dumbass policies that are going to fail and embarrass us horribly, right? Don't be a racist, but if you're gonna be one, be effective for Christ's sakes, right? And this isn't effective. You're telling the world that we believe our future is all tied up in AI, and the reason that we have to have these draconian rules about how AI products can be sold to the rest of the world is so that we can maintain that dominance. At the exact same time, you literally have the factory of the world who's being denied these products and services being able to spin up their own products and services and sell them to the world. One, it's not fucking working. This is why we need to stop having presidents that are damn near 80 years old. They still think typewriters are high technology, right? It's not working. It is going to backfire. And, you know, in a couple of decades, how quickly can everything change? And as I've said before, right, if I was not American, right, if I was a CIO in Argentina, a CIO in Saudi Arabia, a CIO in Kenya, and if I'm looking at the draconian, punitive policies that our government is putting on these AI products for anybody who tries to use them, and I look at China, right? Oh, am I concerned about no, actually, nobody cares about the Uyghurs. Are we allowed to say that? Are we allowed to say, no, we're not allowed to say that. Eli, yeah, definitely don't say nobody gives a fuck about the Uyghurs. It's true, but you're not allowed to say it. Anyways, but I'm an ass beast. Can we just be honest? Can we take one moment and be honest? Nobody cares about the Uyghurs. Nobody gives a fuck. Should they? Yes. Uyghur lives should matter. They should. They don't. They don't. Right, so if you're a CIO, you're a CTO in somewhere other than the United States, and you're looking at these products to buy, and you're looking at your risk mitigation strategies. What is the real risk to your organization? And you're like, at any time, the President of the United States, who's cracked out on Diet Coke, may decree some god-awful fucking policy that doesn't even make any sense, and therefore limit access to the hardware or products that you need to scale. Right? Because most of the time when you're building out projects, you don't buy it all at once. We're not all Elon Musk, right? So you might buy 1,000 GPUs with the idea in 6 months you buy another 1,000 GPUs, and another 6 months you buy another 1,000 GPUs. What happens if you buy that first 1,000 GPUs and then the coked out president, right, has a decree and you're not able to scale past that, right? That is a real and actual risk issue for CIOs, CTOs that are not in the United States. And so you're like, okay, well, that's the risk I'm dealing with there. And the risk I'm dealing with China is Uyghurs. And nobody cares about. They're going to buy Chinese products. And where are we going to be? Where are we going to be in that particular dynamic? So yeah, anyways. It'll be curious to see, and especially, you know, as our president, as our government does what it's doing, right? We're beating up on Canada again because we're beating up on Canada, right? We threatened to invade Greenland because for some reason we threatened to invade Panama for some reason. We're both trying to pull out of NATO and browbeat the crap out of the Europeans at the exact same time over NATO, as we do more tariffs, as we do this, as we do the other thing. You know, and one of the things you really have to think about with a lot of this stuff is it's, you know, it's lifestyle. What is the lifestyle brand of China versus the United States, right? So this came up with marketing and branding 25 years ago, right? So when I was a kid, manufacturing was still a thing, not necessarily, it was a non-trivial task, right? Creating clothing, creating products was still pretty difficult, right? If you bought an American car, they generally did not last over 100,000 miles, right? The reason you bought Toyotas, they advertised lasting 200,000 miles. Like, wow, right? Well, the thing is, manufacturing got better, right? As all human endeavors do, manufacturing got better. And so the issue that you ran into as you go into the 2000s, and so you have a $30 fleece coat being sold at Walmart, right? You have a $100 fleece coat being sold as North Face, and maybe you have a $150 fleece coat sold as Patagonia. But then the fleece coat's a fleece coat. Right now, if you're going up to the mountaintops, it matters, right? If you are trekking the Himalayas, you probably want the Patagonia or at least the North Face, right? Because there's real things. Like I think about this with shoes, right? So I'm training to run a marathon. I ran 18 miles this morning. That is not called a humble brag. It's called a fucking brag, motherfuckers. Anyways, I woke up at 4:30 this morning to run 18 miles. Here's the thing. Most people with shoes, most people who have running shoes, it doesn't really matter whether you buy Nike or whether you buy Hoka's or whether you buy something at Payless if Payless still exists, right? Maybe you run a mile or whatever. Right, here's the thing. You run 18 miles, you plan to run 26 miles. We'll see if my wife will allow me to do ultra marathons. I'm actually thinking about the ultra marathons. Anyways, you start thinking about doing 50 miles. Fucking matters. Right? Anyways, I like Hocus. I'll just tell you, I really like Hocus right now. Hocus, 18 miles on Hocus are beautiful. Anyways, but the thing is so for most people, it doesn't matter. Most people, whether it's shoes or whether it's fleece jackets or whatever, they are not going to the mountaintop. They are not running marathons. They are not getting the real value and performance that you get from paying $150 versus $30. They just need a flannel jacket to keep them a little bit warm in the office space, right? So one of the big things that came up is this whole question of like, how do you convince people that are going to be just going to the office? How do you convince them to spend $150 on a fleece jacket instead of $30 by going to Walmart? And the idea is lifestyle brand, right? Not just lifestyle that you live, but the lifestyle that you aspire to, right? So somebody goes to Walmart, I'm blue collar, and I don't do things like hike Himalayas. I go out in the yard and do real work. I do man work, right? They buy the $30 thing. Right? Maybe North Face. Oh, I go up and I do some skiing or some stuff every once in a while. So I need something better than what you get at a, Walmart. But I'm not going to waste money on Patagonia. So you buy the $100 one. And the Patagonia people are like, yeah, well, I did climb to the top of a hill 10 years ago. So, people like me, right? It's a lifestyle brand. You're not buying the specifications of the product. You're buying what this product tells the world about you, right? It's a big thing with business nowadays. What becomes interesting is we start thinking about lifestyle branding on a geopolitical environment on a global scale. What is the lifestyle brand of the US versus the lifestyle brand of China in the next decade? Right? I mean, you see the stuff going on in the United States right now, and holy crap. Fuck. What's going on? Right? If you're a college kid in Chile, how do you feel about the United States in 2025, especially with the history, right? For people around the world, how do you feel about the United States? And how do you feel about the brand that the United States is presenting? Is that the brand that you want to be associated with? And so when China starts putting these products out of the market, and right, it might be North Face versus Patagonia or whatever, right? So the Chinese products are good. They're good. They're not Walmart. I'm not saying they're Walmart, but let's say they're 2 years. Let's say they're 2 years behind, right? If you start looking at it though from a student's point of view, if you start looking at it from a CIO, CTO's point of view, when you start looking at it from these other points of view, does the lifestyle brand component start to become more important than the practical technical specifications, right? If you're never going to hike Everest anyway, so many of the AI deployments are not the most fucking advanced thing where they're trying to figure out drug therapies or your credit score or whatever else. A lot of the AI deployments are rather banal. Like a lot of the AI deployments, honestly, you could probably just write a SQL statement to get the same result, but AI is cooler, so they're going to use AI. And so when you're at that level, even if the Chinese is slightly behind, what lifestyle do you want to be presenting? Since nobody cares about the Uyghurs. Not allowed to say that. Not supposed to say, but it's true. So anyways, that's my question and concern with what we're doing going forward. I think it is a bad policy on the face of it. I think it is a failing policy in the application. And I think the actual end results of the policy will put us much further behind the curve than a lot of people realize. But I don't know. That's my thoughts. That's my thoughts. One geek's opinion. What do you think about Baidu dumping yet another AI model out into the open source world? Do you think this is another time for China to basically try to embarrass the United States, or is it something that you would never touch? I don't know. Put your thoughts down below. Remember, it's the modern world of social media. Whether it's a thumb up, a thumb down, a comment that says I'm amazing and brilliant, or a comment that says I'm the biggest dumbass that's ever walked, it's all an interaction. And that's all YouTube cares about. That's all YouTube cares about. So anyways, put your thoughts down below. And with that, see y'all later.